Hey guys, welcome to the weekly analysis. This is Nick from ForexNoobs.com. Today is Monday, the 19th of March, 2018, and the time is 19:03 in the UK. You're looking at an AUDUSD daily chart. For those of you who don't know, I'll just quickly explain how these webinars work. We do 2 webinars per week. We have the Monday webinar, which is today's webinar. That one is a public webinar, gets posted to the public YouTube channel. In that one, we don't discuss the strategy too in depth. We just look for setups, price action setups. And then we have the Wednesday/Thursday webinar. Wednesday/Thursday webinar is more in depth, more detail. We can cover other more advanced topics as well as analysis. So for those of you who are in here attending live, only members can attend live. Please keep your questions kind of basic and simple for today's webinar, but on Wednesday's webinar, feel free to ask whatever you want. So yeah, that's how the webinars work for those of you who didn't know. So yeah, let's just get into it. We're looking for price action setups today. That's reversal setups, continuation setups, all kinds of setups. We don't limit ourselves to just reversals, to just continuations, to just whatever. We're going to be looking for all kinds of setups on these pairs. Actually, not this pair. This pair is just there for another reason. So not that, but all the other pairs, we're going to be looking for setups on those pairs. So let's get started. All right, first of all is AUDUSD Daily. What's going on with that? It's broken below our support area, and it's now stalling from below the area. I don't like this kind of stuff. When price breaks below an area and then starts stalling, never really a good sign to me. Not something I would want to trade. So the last trade on this was from up here, a short, which worked out really, really well for us. I shared this trade in last week's analysis. I'm guessing most of you ended up taking it. Is that right? I mean, it was posted to the forum. It was a popular trade, so I'm assuming most of you, well, not most of you, but a lot of you ended up taking it. Oh, you missed it. Oh, yeah, I remember your post on the forum. Right, so you're Alex. It's just your name backwards on the forum, Zila. I thought you were like Russian or something. I mean, I don't really know what Russian names are like exactly, but I just guessed, you know, Russian or from somewhere in that part of the world, so that was your name, and I was like, oh, okay. But it's just Alex backwards. I feel dumb. Yeah. There's a lot of Nicks too. But Kicken? Kicken? Nah, that wouldn't be a good name. KCIN. Kakaj. No, that wouldn't work either. Righto. Doesn't work for everyone. But anyway, let's keep on track, guys, instead of trying to say everyone's name backwards. Oh, a retest. Yeah, I was going to get into that in a second, MJ. So right now, doesn't really look that great. The best thing with this kind of setup here, well, it's not a setup, sorry. The best thing with this kind of situation here, where price breaks below a support area, then stalls out, is a continuation setup. So price might come back up to here, test this as a resistance area, and then continue down. That will give us a great little setup here. It looks like price is finally trending down on AUDUSD. It has broken those recent lows. It's below the 200 SMA. It's below support. So I do think we're probably going to see price continuing down. Although I would not be surprised to see a slight retrace first. So that would be a nice little setup for us. So I'm going to keep an eye on this. So I'm going to see if price pushes back up to this 77.50 area. And see how it goes from there. All right, Euro CAD. Oh yeah, I was just trying to think, why do we have this pair open? Because I don't normally trade EuroCAD or GBP-CAD. Yeah, someone was asking about possible setups on here last week. But since I don't trade these, I'm just going to close them and we'll go straight on to Euro USD. Euro USD, what's going on with that? Price reversed from this resistance area. It's coming back up to it. Price is just not really moving that much on Euro USD right now. It's looking like it might be getting stuck in a bit of a range. Either way, I don't see any clear setup here. Even if it comes up here to retest this resistance area, I think I said the same thing last week. I am not that interested in taking a short from here because that short's likely only going to stall at this level. So, unless I'm mistaken, I said the same thing last week about when price pulled back up to here, and my apprehension proved, well, not necessarily. I was going to say proved true, but not necessarily, because it's not like if you're short on Euro USD, there's no way it's going to work out. It's just pulling back a little bit. But, you know, there was a good chance that it would pull back from here, and it is pulling back from here. So I wouldn't want to get into a short trade if it pulls back up to resistance, because it's getting clear that it's, well, not clear, but it's getting possible that it's just going to be stuck in a range for a little while, and I just can't be bothered with trading in those tight little ranges. GBP has started trending up very well, actually. Been incredibly strong moves up. GBP is approaching this resistance area up here, the 1.84. Actually, let's call it the 1.8375. So this resistance area, it's a bit of an old resistance area. I had to go back a while to get it. 2016. We don't really have that much data for this pair, so I just had to use what I had. 2015, 2016. Best I could do, I just used the data that I could get to give me a resistance area. Let's see what happens when it hits this 1.8375. 1.8375. But right now, there's nothing much going on there. Euro AUD, similar situation, very strong move up. This one's approaching resistance at 1.6100, psychological level / resistance level. It's not quite there yet, so we can't really do much with that. AUDJPY forming a strong little indecision, little, not true, big. It's a big indecision candle on top of this support area. You know, this is just one of those kind of like clear setups. It is, you would say, counter to the overall trend, but it definitely looks like price is struggling to get below this level. So it's not exactly a low probability setup. It's still kind of a medium risk or medium probability setup. That is if the daily candle closes as is, so we won't know that for a few hours yet. So let's keep a close eye on this, see how it goes. This could give us a nice trade this week, a nice bullish reversal trade. So I will be keeping an eye on that. Pull it to the top of the list. AUD New Zealand. AUD New Zealand pushed down to this support area. Looks like it's breaking below it. But as always with support areas, you know, just a clear example of this from AUDJPY. If you were looking at AUDJPY 2 candles ago, or, well, yeah, 2 candles ago, when this candle was forming, that's what I'm trying to say. If you were looking at AUDJPY when this candle was forming, and this candle was all the way down here, you would have said, oh, it's broken support. But that's not the way support works, because price often pulls back up, and then you get something like this. So with AUD New Zealand right now, it very well appears that it's broken support, but by the time this candle closes, it can pull back up, can give us indecision. There's nothing really clear right now. It's just broken slightly below support. Let's keep a close eye on it. If it forms indecision on top of this support area, it could give us a nice little long trade. But yeah, nothing is imminent with this pair with AUD New Zealand because price hasn't really closed yet, so we don't know. EUR/GBP, massive pullback from the support area. Very messy. Personally, for me, too risky to trade. I really dislike those long wicks, so I'm not going to trade that. EUR/JPY, this one's already reversing from this support area. Is anyone long on this, by the way? Looks like a good setup, price action wise. It just looks like the risk to reward ratio might be a bit tricky to work out. Well, not to work out, to get a good risk reward ratio. If you were entering at the high of indecision with a stop loss at the low, then your risk to reward ratio is not going to be fantastic. So you'd probably want a tighter stop on this one. Maybe even an entry on a retrace, something like that. It doesn't look like there's anyone in it, and totally understandable because of the size of the indecision candle. It was a bit of a difficult trade, and also it happened on the 12-hour, not the daily. And you know, we do trade the 12-hour, of course, but most people prefer the daily over the 12-hour. So yeah, I totally see why no one's in that one. We'll just look at it on Wednesday's analysis, see how it played out. Strong move up, hit resistance, stalling, but indecision is too big. Going to be difficult to get any tradable setup there. GBP USD has pushed up to a resistance area. Now, GBP USD is appearing to be in the beginnings of a downtrend, but overall, you would still say it's trending up. So I would be willing to look for a short here from this resistance area up here, the 1.4080. But right now, I'm not too convinced that short is the direction that it's going to go. That being said, if price does stall up there, I will, as always, be looking for a short reversal because I do not mind trading against the overall trend when it makes sense to do so and when it is safe to do so. So I'll be looking for a setup from the 1.408. I'll be looking for a short reversal setup if price comes up to here and indecision forms. But right now, we're not getting any clear signs of indecision, so that's still a good way off. So not even going to drag that to the top of the list. We'll just check that. Well, I'll just check that in tomorrow's analysis. Tomorrow's analysis does not get posted. I just mean my own personal analysis. Anyone go long on New Zealand JPY? That is a solid setup there. No? No one? I would have thought someone would have. It's just such a great looking setup. But fair enough. If you haven't, you haven't. Right, so. Yeah, I know, it's the 6-hour chart. Still, I thought someone would have got in. I mean, it's a setup on the 12-hour chart too. It's just not as nice a setup. The risk-reward ratio is not as good there. Jack, that is a good point. I'm not really liking the lower time frames that much at the moment either. Much preferring the higher time frames. A lot more reliable lately. The Forex market or any market really goes in phases. Sometimes lower time frames are much more reliable because generally this happens in low volatility periods. When there's low volatility, the daily charts, the setups you get there, there's not enough volatility to push them to your target. So you'll be looking mostly at lower time frames because your targets are usually a lot smaller on lower time frames and it's more likely for targets to be hit. But right now we are not in a low volatility period. We're in a pretty medium to high volatility period. So the daily charts just tend to be a lot more reliable. Those smaller time frames during volatile periods, they tend to swing around a bit too much to get good trades, whereas the dailies, they get some nice strong moves. So yeah, I get why you wanted to avoid it. But still, it was a good trade. Sad that no one took it. Well, maybe someone did, but no one in here right now took it. New Zealand USD, similar scenario. So 6 hour, 4 hour, 8 hour setup, lower time frame setup. Looking good, but I'm going to just go ahead and assume no one took that one either. All right, USD CAD price stalling on resistance. That looks pretty decent. I'm going to move that to the top of the list. We'll look at that in more detail in a second. I'm just going to finish off down here. Nothing on USD CHF. Nothing on USDJPY. Just ranging too tightly. Take a quick look at gold and silver. Starting off with silver. Silver is still in this range. I'm going to adjust this one down a little bit. And probably adjust this one up a little bit. But silver is still in this kind of, I guess you would call it a, well, it's not really a tight range, but it is a range. So as always with a range, you do get some pretty decent trade opportunities. That was loud. I'm not sure if you guys heard that, but there was a siren that just went past. It looked like an ambulance. That was loud. Anyway, this looks like it could be a potential long trade on silver. I mean, looking at it on the 8 hour. These range bound trading opportunities are generally pretty good. Surprised get stuck in these tight ranges. And it allows you to kind of trade the ups and the downs with pretty good accuracy until, of course, the range breaks. But yeah, it's at the bottom of this range right now. It's forming a nice little reversal for those of you who do trade silver. Oh, wow, sorry. You guys are in New Zealand USD. Is that what you were talking about? Or are you talking about silver? I thought it was New Zealand USD. All right. Well, I just assumed that no one was in it because no one entered New Zealand JPY. So we'll take a look at that in a second too. Let's just finish up silver and then we'll go to... All right, so silver. There's a nice little long opportunity here. It's a bit of a messy pair, so this is not for everyone. And I'm not a big commodity trader myself. I know it's technically a Forex pair, but it's still commodities. I'm not a huge fan of them myself, just because they tend to be kind of unpredictable and the way they move is kind of slow. And I don't know the correct word for it. I just have always said jaggedy, and by jaggedy I mean it goes like, so it takes forever to hit your target because it's just doing this up and down, up and down, up and down stuff. That being said, I have been looking at gold and silver trading lately because there are quite a lot of predictable setups on gold and silver. So we do have a nice little long setup here. Has a good risk to reward ratio actually. You could trade it with the minimum risk to reward ratio of 1.5 and the trade would look something like this. An entry at 1630, stop loss at 1617. Actually, I should be a bit more specific there. Stop loss at 16.180 entry at 16.304, and a target at around about 16.481 or 16.487. Those aren't exact, but just look for a minimum of a 1.5 risk reward ratio. Mine was actually a bit off there, so let me adjust that up. So the target is more like 1.6496. Yeah, it looks pretty solid. If anyone is interested in silver trading, let me move that to the top of the list actually. All right, XAU USD. I'm going to adjust this down to based on that bounce. I'm not adjusting it down based only on this. I'm adjusting it down based on that bounce there. Yeah, see on the 12-hour, it makes sense for this one to be down here. So we're getting a similar thing on gold actually. Prices has come down to this support area and is now bouncing away. A nice little setup here. So the setup on both gold and silver, and it's the same sort of setup. We're in a ranging period for these. So prices ranging between two areas of support resistance. It's come down to the lower area and it's given us a nice little long setup. So for those interested in gold trading, it has a good risk to reward ratio for a short-term setup. I mean, this is like, yeah, that's really. Problem with that one is obviously it's already triggered, whereas silver, you can still get in on that. That's a really decent setup, and it's already almost hit target. So yeah, too late for that one. But we'll keep an eye on this one. We'll see how this one would have played out had you entered. Silver, still potential to enter that one if you're quick about it, if you want to enter. I'm probably not going to enter. There's a few other setups I've got my eye on. I don't want to use up my risk on silver, which is not something I commonly trade. It's something I've been interested in trading, and I've been looking more at it. But yeah, it's kind of secondary to the normal Forex pairs for me. So I'm not too bothered with it right now. But for those of you who want to trade it, it is there. New Zealand USD, we'll take a quick look at that as a few of you are in it. The 200 SMA is on the 8-hour chart, so no. 200 SMA is on the 8-hour. 200 SMA is only really valid on the daily and arguably on the 4-hour, but not on the 8-hour, certainly not. So yeah, it's nothing to worry about. So, right, I assume you guys are along on the 12-hour, or maybe a lower time frame, maybe the 8-hour, maybe the 6-hour, but I do think the 12-hour, actually, what are you guys long on? What time frame did you take this trade on? Because the time frame is going to affect the entry price a little bit. 12, okay, cool. I'm just going to give it the tightest safe stop for this example, but I probably would have had a wider stop than this one just because I'd want my stop to clear the support area a fair bit and not have it just simply below the low of indecision. Just to get an idea of what the minimum stop can be. With a minimum stop, an entry right at the high of indecision, It's got a 1.5 and a 1.5 risk reward ratio. It's got a pretty good chance of hitting that 1.5. But with a more realistic stop, you know, a safer stop, let's say. We'll pull it up a bit just to kind of give you a more realistic entry, because usually when you enter, you're not in right at the high of indecision, unless you got in on a bit of a retrace, which is always nice and possible. But even then, with a minimum risk to reward ratio, it has a really good chance of hitting it. With a risk to reward ratio of 2, you've actually also got a pretty good chance. I'd be a bit worried targeting much beyond this level here, unless buyers show themselves to be extremely strong. You know, they're very possibly going to stall here like they did on the last move up. You know, those 3 indecision candles and then straight down. So as long as your target is before there, which it is, a good 2 risk reward ratio target before there, yeah, I see this is a really nice setup. Good work, guys. AUDUSD, we're just looking for a retrace up to resistance, followed by a continuation. May never happen, but if it does, that's going to be awesome. USDCAD. USDCAD is stalling on resistance right now. Not the strongest of setups, but these 2 resistance areas I have here, or these 2 support resistance areas I have here, these ones, I placed them last week because price is just kind of messy down there. And I was trying to get a good idea of the strongest support resistance. So this one is not really that strong. So when you look at it without that support resistance area, sorry guys, I'm really tired. I had a very long weekend. Went to London to see the UFC live, and getting back was an absolute nightmare because of all the snow. March. Almost the middle / getting towards the end of March, and it's snowing like crazy in London. But anyway, so I'm a bit tired, so that's why I'm jumbly and my words aren't coming out right. So thank you for putting up with that, everyone. But what I was trying to say was that support resistance area was only placed there as kind of like a kind of test. I don't think it's that great a support resistance area. I think it's more of a minor area. So I'm going to take it off. When you take that one off, this does look like a much better setup because it has a nice amount of room to the downside to move. Obviously, I'm not saying completely ignore where this area was. It's minor support resistance. So it's very possible for price to stall here either temporarily or completely and then continue up, because remember, this isn't an uptrend. This is a very strong bullish trend. So we are trading counter trend if we short here. Counter trend trading is not bad as long as you're doing it right and as long as you know what you're doing. So there is potential here, guys. Let's look at if this daily candle closes as is, right? Then we would have an entry below the low of the daily candle, maybe a bit higher, but only on a retrace. So it would have to break the low of the daily candle and retrace up a few pips. Will just give us a slightly better risk to reward ratio. We could then have, yeah, we'd have to enter on a bit of a retrace to get the safest setup. We would then have a pretty decent setup from this daily candle if it closes as is. So anyway, let's keep a close eye on this one, guys. Kamal, indecision is showing on the 2-day time frame. Yeah, it is, but it's also showing on the daily time frame, so I don't see any real reason to go down to the 2-day. Oh, we got an Airbnb. It was a nice place. There was like 6 of us, so I don't think your spare room would have done us. No, 8 of us, actually. Although, thanks for the offer. Maybe next time we'll try to squeeze 8 people into your spare room. But anyway, on subject. it does look like a decent setup. I'm actually kind of excited for this one. Let's keep a close eye on it. I always like a good counter trend trade. A lot of people say, oh, you should never trade counter trend. Oh, you're entering a counter trend trade? That's so stupid. No one who knows how to trade trades against a trend, but that's completely wrong. There's always opportunities to trade against the trend because trends never move up consistently. If I'm doing a counter trend trade, I'm not looking to target all the way down here, nor am I looking to target all the way down here. I'm looking for a conservative target. Probably around about here would be the ideal target. But hey, if price is moving really strong, if sellers are really, really strong, bears, whatever you want to call them, might even target down to this support area, but generally speaking, not below that. Counter trend trades, you just use a more conservative target and you do have a good chance of hitting that target. With your continuation trades, you can have a much bigger target. You can extend your targets much further. So it's just about approaching counter trend trades correctly, which a lot of people don't understand, and they just parrot what they hear. Never trade against the trend, which is just not true. Trading against a trend can be very profitable if you do it right. Yeah, MJ, that is true. Depends on your broker too. Your broker platform may allow for advanced trade setups, so for advanced entries. I'm not going to go into all the details with names of broker platforms. I'm just going to say a lot of people trade with crappy platforms like MT4, and I always get a lot of flack when I say MT4 is a crappy platform because everyone uses MT4. But the reality is it's a 12-year-old platform that is completely outdated, completely outclassed by modern platforms. Modern platforms allow you to do advanced order types. So you would have an order that triggers, right? Let me zoom in a bit. That only activates once price breaks the low of the indecision candle. So the order only, I'm not saying it enters you into the trade, it only activates. So when price pushes below this level, your order becomes active, and then your limit order is actually up here. So as long as price doesn't break below, let me do this in a different color. This black level is the active line, let's call it. And the green level is your entry price. So as long as price is up here, even if it crosses below your entry level, it won't trigger. Once it crosses below the active line, then this one up here becomes active. And if price retraces to that, it will enter you into the trade. So there is ways to do it. You don't have to stay awake. You just need to not trade with a 12-year-old platform that has been completely replaced by modern platforms. Yet most traders in the world are still stuck in 2006 or whenever it was released. Anyway, don't get me started. USDCAD, sorry, AUDUSD. AUDUSD, we're looking for a retrace. I think I've already covered this one again. So we're just looking for a retrace, nice continuation setup. USDCAD, we're looking for a reversal setup from resistance. AUDJPY stalling heavily on this support area, looking for a potential long trade. Risk to reward ratio is not fantastic, so might have to enter on a retrace, might have to have a tighter target. We'll just see how this one plays out on the daily. New Zealand USD is already open, so we're not going to look at that. I'll push silver up to 4th place for today. Wait. Oh, I just confused myself between gold and silver. Sorry, guys. I was looking at the gold pair, gold USD, thinking, wait, this looks completely different to what it looked like 5 minutes ago, because I wasn't looking at silver, I was looking at gold. So we got silver here. Silver, I mean, I'm not going to trade this, but you might want to. Nice little long setup, but it seems like it's already triggered, so you'll be getting in on a retrace. So I would say that you have to enter quite quick. Other than that, yeah, there's nothing else, really. In GBP AUD, we could look for a nicer continuation here, as it is coming down to this support area. So we could be looking for continuation there. So let's actually keep an eye on that one too. But other than that, there's not much going on. Someone said they were short on USDCAD already. Who was that? All right. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being short already. If you're short, you're short. I prefer to take my trades these days on higher time frames, but nothing wrong with trading on the 4 hour if you want to. Often, that just means you get a better entry. So if the trade does work out, you get more pips than me. Or alternatively, your trade's just more likely to work out because your target's much tighter than mine because you get a better entry. That's usually what trading the 4 hour means. But it also means you get into more trades that don't work out. But at the end of the month, it might just average out and be very similar to only having traded the daily. Or it might not be. Just depends. Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention that, Ian. Completely slipped my mind. I am aware of the G20 meetings. That didn't slip my mind. What slipped my mind was mentioning it. G20 meetings, as always, they do have potential to cause volatility because what happens with the G20 meetings is you get reporters interviewing people, saying stuff that could impact pairs. So there's two choices you can make. You can just say, I'm not going to trade the G20 meetings and just not and stay out of the market. Or you could just ignore them. I, generally speaking, don't trade them. But over the past quite a while now, actually, I've been testing a lot of different things. And it's been a few years now that I've been testing news. And I've been testing trading through the G20 meetings. And it tends to just be fine. Now, when I say I've been testing trading through them, I just trade demo through them. Just to kind of see what would have happened had I traded live. And it's never that big of a deal. They never affect things too much. So, in my opinion, they definitely do cause moves, but when the moves happen, they tend to be in my direction anyway. So yeah, I'm not going to bother with avoiding trading this week because of them. Well, not this week, but Monday, Tuesday. It's up to you guys. The safer option is to avoid them because there is the human element. I'm always apprehensive with trading through news that has the human element. What do I mean by the human element? The human element is just talking, speeches, interviews, questions asked to people. When the news releases are just numbers, they tend to be factored into price, or at the very least, the setups we're seeing are forming because the news releases are coming, so they usually get pushed into our direction. But with speeches and interviews and all that kind of stuff, it always can lead to surprise moves. So the safer option is, as always, to not trade through the G20 meetings, but I'm just going to do it anyway. I may come to regret it, but through my testing, it's always just been fine. So MJ, the meeting minutes, again, this is something I've been testing over the last quite a long time of data. When I say testing for the last few years, just to clarify, I don't mean that I have been demo trading through these periods in the last few years. What I mean is I've been doing back testing on a demo account. So it's a software called Forex Tester Free, and it allows you to essentially rewind your charts and trade through these periods. So one of my tests lately has been the effect of news on trading. And the thing is, with back testing, most people who are doing back testing, they don't factor news in, right? They just do the back testing, and news has, they're not avoiding trading periods in their back testing because of news, because of G20 meetings, because of anything. So when you backtest with software like Forex Tester or with any software, news is something that you just trade through anyway to get your data. Unless you go back on calendars and try to match the times and everything and try to avoid trading through meetings and stuff like that, which honestly, I've never seen anyone go to that kind of trouble with backtesting. Maybe there are people who do it, but I've never seen it. So when you backtest, you're trading through news anyway. So what I did is I've gone back and I've specifically looked at points where we had important news and I traded through it. And I saw that over the long term, it doesn't have a significant impact on my trades. If anything, I found that news has a positive impact on my trades. Now, I'm not talking about speeches. Speeches are always unpredictable. I'm talking about news in general has a positive impact on my trading because it just pushes price in my direction. Stuff like the G20 meetings, they are different. They can be risky to trade through because of the human element, but I'm going to trade through them anyway. AUD news that you were talking about, MJ, is the monetary policy meeting minutes. That again has the human element. That is a record of the meeting, the conversation in the meeting to that dictates monetary policy. So that is again, it has the human element, so it can be quite risky. But in my testing, trading through them is not that big a deal. Yeah, exactly, Thomas. Like, I can't imagine anyone has backtested. Well, I'm sure people have, but I mean, your general kind of backtesting. I can't imagine that people are looking back at every single week on a calendar, marking down when they would not trade, and then in their backtesting, they're not trading during those specific hours. It would be a monumental thing to do. It would take so much time. And, you know, a lot of people, you know, they will dedicate that kind of time, and that's fine. But, and I'm sure there's probably plugins for calendars and stuff like that. But honestly, I'm not sure how well they would deal with daylight saving changes and all that kind of stuff. I just think most people backtesting are going trading through news anyway. So in your forward testing, you may as well just trade through news. That being said, speeches are still something that I avoid. Like, and I'm just talking about pure speeches. Speeches from central bank leaders, I don't trade through those. They're different. There's always a huge potential for crazy moves based on speeches because these guys, you know, a lot of them are very intelligent, but sometimes you do get some dumb people in positions of power. And they might be smart in some ways, but at public speaking, they're not that smart. And they get outsmarted by reporters. Reporters ask them something, and they'll say something they shouldn't, and bam, price goes flying in some crazy direction. So central bank leaders, speeches by them, tend not to trade through them. But I've lately, over the years, have been becoming more and more open to trading through most news. This has been a pretty long webinar. Usually the Monday webinars are quite short, but this has been a long webinar. And with that being said, I think I'm going to wrap things up, guys, at 45 minutes, almost exactly. Thank you guys for attending, and I will see you for Wednesday's or Thursday's webinar. I'm not sure if we're going to hold it on Wednesday or Thursday. Might actually have to be, oh no, it could be Wednesday this week. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. Thank you guys for attending, and I'll see you later. Lenny, watch the first video in the course, please. This is the introduction video. You get to it by clicking the Mastermind tab. I'll give you all my contact details there. A lot of people skip the introduction video. Don't skip the introduction video. It answers all the most common questions, like how to get in contact with me. But anyway, thank you guys for attending, and I'll see you later.